Directors that takes story very seriously and research very seriously, and so he makes a great, smart, proper, dramatic film, and at the same time loves and understands the big action sequences and all the big fun of these type of movies. So it's rare that there's that balance. Usually these types of films are one or the other, and because of Philip, this film is both, and I knew that with him it would be that. So.
Philip, I think one of the strong suits of many of your films is casting. What was it like working with Liam and Angelina, and what did they bring to the film?
Well, Angelina brings, as we know, an extraordinary acting ability combined with an amazing athleticism. But it's not the athleticism that makes those stunt and fight sequences so dynamic. It's her acting ability, because it's make-believe, but she makes you believe it. And Liam is, I think, one of the greatest living American actors. So that was a no-brainer. They're both no-brainers, really, and reason to get up in the morning and go to the studio.
Liam, what are the challenges a film like this presents for an actor versus something that's maybe more actor-driven, something that's more dramatic when it's this physical?
I'm under the very misguided impression that everything is actor-driven. I think the interesting part, I think, for both Angie and myself, was what motivates someone like this. There was the Russian spy swap that happened a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't help but think, with someone who spends that much time in deep cover, what motivates them? And that for me is what made the film so interesting and made the character so interesting to pursue.
I heard that Columbia actually engineered that whole Russian thing. It didn't really happen. It was just ridiculous.
It's one of the most impressive marketing schemes I've ever seen.
All right, let's open up questions to the audience. If someone has a question for anybody up on the panel, feel free to work your way to a microphone. If I can find you, I will let you ask the question. Where are we, out here?
Hello.
Go ahead.
My question is for Angelina. I know that you used the method for preparing for roles. Did you use that for Salt?
Oh, it's a nice question. I did. I think I do every time I work in some way. The method is so much about getting back to your memory and using your sense of memory, and so for any kind of emotional scene, funny enough, there were some kind of good heavy scenes in this, and to kind of pull from things that kind of tear at my soul and move me, and there was that opportunity for this.
Thank you.
Next up, sir.
Hi, Ms. Jolie. My name is Jim. I understand you filmed some of the movie in Bethpage, New York, where I'm from. And I'm curious, do you have a favorite part of the film or scene where you think it's very integral in the movie, or it's very important? I'm sure all the film is, but something you remember specifically.
That we shot at Bethpage?
Well, I'm from Bethpage, so I had to mention that.
Well, one of the most fun, part of the helicopter in the end that you'll see it for was actually outside, I don't know how many, 60 feet up in Bethpage. So that was fun. But there was quite a few. I mean, Liam and I have some memorable scenes. I think that were some of my favorites.
Liam, one of the parts of the film I found most interesting was your relationship with Evelyn Salt, Ted Winter's relationship with Evelyn. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because it changes drastically, obviously, in the film.
Yeah, I can't talk about it too much because I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but suffice it to say that Ted takes it very personally when he finds out that Evelyn's, or when he thinks that Evelyn's betrayed him. It was just a really fun ride. It was one of those things where it just kept twisting and turning, and it was really fun as an actor to sort of, do you play what you know, or do you play the scene that's right in front of you, And I guess the lesson I learned is that it's always best to sort of play the scene that's right in front of you.
That's correct. Go ahead.
Hi, Ms. Jolie. My question is, Did you do your own stunts? And if you did you get any injuries from those stunts?
I did, and I didn't. I got, oddly, I got injured in one of the most ridiculously easy stunts in the movie. I had to just jump into a door and shoot sideways and roll to the ground, and I rolled right into a desk.
Ow!
Cracked the front of my head open, and not my skull, but I was bleeding, and I had a little scar now right here.
We barely stopped. We barely stopped.
Yeah, we came back a few hours later and tried, but yeah, no, and then I thought actually that I had some problem because I couldn't hear everybody well, and I thought, oh my God, I've done it, and I've got a concussion, and I had forgotten I had my earplugs in from the gun.
Philip, how do you handle that when you've got some of the biggest movie stars in the world wanting to do their own stunts? It must make a director a little bit nervous.
Well, we have a secret weapon called Simon Craig, one of the greatest stunt coordinators and second-unit directors ever in the history of mankind. A genius. He's the architect of so many of these wonderful action scenes in the movie. And he knows Angelina's strengths and he knows her limitations.
Exactly.
So he lets her go right up to the edge. When he says no, she knows she shouldn't go over the edge.
Do you find that actors tend to want to do more stunts than they're even allowed to?
Just say it again.
Do you find that actors tend to want to do more stunts than perhaps they even should?
I find that Angelina wanted to do every stunt. In fact, she did. This is an unusual summer film. There's no CGI Angelina in this movie. There's no stunt double. It's her.
That's true.
Hi, my question's for Angelina. I was wondering, you said you did a lot of fantasy action and you wanted to try reality action. I wanted to know what was the first thing that grabbed you, your interest in saying, I want to do this part?
Well, part of it is that I love doing action, and I love doing dramatic films, and I've never really been able to combine them. And as for action, it's sometimes, you know, I've had so much fun doing certain films, but you can get away with so much when it's fantasy. You can bend a bullet, and you can jump off something that doesn't really exist, or you can, and you can have fun, and you can stretch imagination. But for this one, it was just such a nice challenge to say, we have to work so much harder to convince the audience that all these things are absolutely possible. And so my style got meaner and harder and darker, and it wasn't as kind of fun and pretty, and that made it, I think, better. I think these stunts in this movie is a better action movie than the ones I've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was that, and the character. I think she's a fascinating character. You can never talk about her because it's all a secret, and you have to let the pieces unravel. But she's a really interesting, kind of damaged, unusual type of person. So I think people will relate to her in a very human way and identify with her.
Hey, by the way.
Lorenzo, sometimes in an action